This skill keeps breaking Diablo 4, and by breaking I mean it does things the devs did not intend for it to do. And why is that? But before we talk about how this skill got nerfed multiple times in the course of a few days, right after or even before the game's official release, let's dive into a little of how the skill works and what causes these things to happen. For starters, Whirlwind is a core skill, which means it's a spender skill. That means alongside it, you have generator skills that generate the primary resource in the game. For the class Barbarian, that would be Fury. The intended use of spenders is you build up your resource and then you deplete it by using your spender. Sounds pretty simple. And this is, you augment it by getting Fury Reduction, which reduces the cost of using the skill. You can replenish your resources faster with resource generation. Alongside these things, there are a couple items and abilities that enhance your resource generation. For example, Rally and Cry would increase your resource generation when you used it, and Challenging Shout would increase your Fury generation when you get hit. Alongside the third shout, War Cry, this would create the trifecta of shouts that would ultimately make Whirlwind a self-sustainable skill, where you actually don't pretty much need a spender to get the build going. Unique from some other spender skills, Whirlwind is a channeling skill, so once you start using it, there's something called snapshotting in Diablo 4, where based on the time you start your skill, all these stats, any buffs that you have for your character, they'll carry on until you stop using the skill. Basically, snapshotting all your power-ups in a point in time. So even if you lose these buffs as you're using Whirlwind, none of that matters because you snapshotted all that attack power bonus, damage bonus, core skill bonus onto the skill itself. And most importantly, Whirlwinds can cause bleed in multiple ways. Less about Whirlwind, but more about the Barbarian. Bleed is a very powerful affix for Barbarian. One, it triggers Hamstring, which counts as a crowd control. For some reason in Diablo 4, any slow you apply, the game considers it as crowd controlled, quote unquote. Which means any bonuses you have against crowd control enemies actually works. Not only does Bleed apply Hamstring, it also works with several Paragon passives, such as the one that reduces the cooldown when you kill a bleeding enemy, or you gain seconds of berserking when you kill a bleeding enemy. There's also a chest piece, but that doesn't work with the Expertise Bleed. It works with the Furious Whirlwind Bleed, which is definitely the weaker of the two nodes. So now we got the basics out of the way. Why is this skill breaking Diablo? Well, first off, during the game's release, there are a pair of ancient gloves that let you stack your whirlwind damage, and based on the total amount of damage you did with your whirlwind, it would explode at once. It wasn't difficult for players to stack a ton of damage and one-shot some of the hardest bosses in the game, leading to certain moments as one-shotting the Butcher without even noticing he was there. And this is a unit that's considered so scary for a lot of people's first playthrough. Oh fuck, it's the Butcher! Oh my! It was responsible for killing so many player characters. But not only are the gloves an issue, there's also an infinite scaling issue with Whirlwind. Remember how beginning we talked about snapshotting? Where this ability calculates all your buffs at a point in time and kind of locks it in? Well, there are some nodes in your passive tree that for some reason keep scaling that. So even though you're snapshotting a point in time, you're then getting applied these bonuses over and over. I don't think this was the intended effect, but it's happening. Whether it's the Berserk node or the actual Violent Whirlwind node, not actually sure which one it is that really causes these issues. But at least the moments such as some streamers one-shotting the hardest bosses in the game after a long windup. They're out there doing hundreds of billions of damage even, because they just keep using the skill and it keeps stacking indefinitely. So something about the snapshotting isn't working right, so this is definitely not intended. But not all good things last forever. On the release of Early Access Diablo 4, the gloves got hit with a nerf almost overnight. They were disabled, removed from the game, and then reintroduced at such a weak rate that right now you're probably better off running almost anything else. But not only were the gloves nerfed, The shout ring that enabled this build to have permanent uptime on the triple shout package were also nerfed, so that relied on a lot more cooldown reduction on helm and amulet to have somewhat of a similar feel to the original build. And then finally, the aspects got hit with a nerf in an attempt to soothe down and reduce the infinite scaling that this build provided. Due to the two specific legendary aspects, remember how I said we're not sure why the snapshotting is occurring? It's safe to say that one of these aspects has to do with it, specifically the aspect of Berserk Ripping, which is applying bleeds every time you enter Berserk mode, and that happens in a multiple variety of ways. One, when you enter a new Berserk state when you kill a bleeding enemy through the Paragon passive. Two, when you enter Berserk manually through using Warcry as a shout. However, using the skill Berserk itself would stop you channeling, so I don't think that was the issue. Well, fortunately, at least the build itself still works. I was clearing like tier 35 nightmare dungeons around level 70-ish, so killing mobs 11 levels higher than me. I was like 72 when I was killing like 83, 85 mobs. But it definitely doesn't have the power that it used to. Yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed that little segment about Whirlwind. It's a little piece I wanted to work on, shed some light on what's happening in Whirlwind. In case you don't know, if you were following with the news and everything, reading up all the forum posts, then you're already familiar with all this. But for the people looking from the outside, people not familiar with Diablo 4, I think it's really interesting. And yeah, hope you enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright, see you guys.